What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the AEW Week in Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of Pro Wrestling News Hub, covering pro wrestling and not sports entertainment. On this week's show, we have top 5 WWE wrestlers who should be in AEW, plus Kenta versus Jon Moxley. Is that coming? Plus our recap of this week's Dynamite and Dark. And just by the way, we do not have ratings this week. They don't come out until next week, so we skipped that for this week. But we'll have a full recap on our YouTube and, of course, our Pro Wrestling Newshub.com website. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast at ProWrestlingNewsHub.com with your MP3s or call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Cutoff time, remember, is 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. And remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We really appreciate that. This week's question of the week is, should AEW sign Zelina Vega? We get your reaction to that. Next week's question is, what do you think about our top 5 list about AEW, WWE wrestlers that should come to AEW? We want to hear your thoughts on that list coming up as well. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was AEW. All right, we have the AEW Dynamite recap for November 25th, 2020. First up, we have Adam Hangman Page versus John Silver, and I was pretty surprised that this is the one match that they decided to start the show with, but it actually was a good match, and again, John Silver delivers every time. Winner. Hangman Adam Page, I gave this one a 3.75. It was a great way to start the show. I thought maybe Page would lose to Silver, and then maybe there would be some kind of thing where Page keeps losing, and then he joins Dark Order, or something goes along with Dark Order. But nope, they gave him a little, hey man, are you interested in joining the Dark Order after? So we'll see what's going on with Page and Dark Order as we move forward. We got a Kenny Omega segment, wearing the sunglasses, looking good, talking about bringing the cleaner back, which we all want to see. There's no question about that. Darby Allin checks in, doing Darby Allin stuff, as he normally does. Then we get Will Hobbs versus Lee Johnson. This was a big quick squash match. Was not really that impressed with anything. Winner, Will Hobbs. I gave this a 2.50. Not really... didn't really do anything for me. After the match, though, this is what set it up. Taz wants some respect for the FTW title. Him and Cody go at it. Cody mentions training Taz's son, and then all heck breaks loose in that one. So that will be interesting as we move forward. What's going on with Cody and Team Taz versus Cody seems to be a thing moving forward. Maybe we get a Brian Cage Cody match and a Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks match, which I think would be good stuff. Eddie Kingston checks in, doing his Eddie Kingston thing, talking trash about Pac, but then Jon Moxley appears, saying, hey man, did you beat me up backstage? And he was like, no. Hybrid 2, Angelico and Jack Evans versus Top Flight, Darius and Dante Martin. This was my elite match of the night. These both two teams, high flyers, lots of action. I wasn't really sure where this would go, but TH2 gets the win. I gave this a 4. This was my elite match of the night. Man, just Top Flight is so young, and they are so good right now. And I love them pairing with Hybrid 2, similar styles, very innovative styles, I guess you could say. And they put on a great show, and this was a fantastic match. I was definitely looking forward to this, and they definitely delivered. Nyla Rose checks in, talking all sorts of smack. See what's going on with them and potential Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes, talking smack about her. FTR checks in, talking about how they're the best. Yeah, we know that. Tag match, Chris Jericho and Jake Hager versus SCU. This one I was like, I don't know about this. The interesting part is that Chris Jericho has never faced Christopher Daniels before, which I never knew. You would think of these guys, 50 plus years they were working the wrestling business, never faced each other. Winner, Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. And this match was okay. Interference from... the only really interesting thing was MJF was out there and Wardlow with our new little inner circle gang, and they were getting involved, and now that sets up a match for next week. I'm just still not a big Jake Hager fan. I'm sorry. Miro and Kip Sabian check in, talking about video games, and then gets interrupted by best friends. They beat each other up, and Miro beats him up. See what happens there in the future. There's your feud there. Moxley and Kenny Omega contract signing. This time, Jon Moxley beats up Kenny Omega before they sign. Talk a bunch of smack. And there you have it. Next week, December 2nd, we get Jon Moxley versus Kenneth Omega. Looking forward to it. My conspiracy theory, and I've mentioned this multiple times, I think Moxley loses the belt. That is my guess. So you have to tune in and see if I'm right. Inner Circle checks in, talking about setting up next week Jericho versus Frankie Kazarian match. Should be good. Don't have a problem with that. Our women's match, Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay. And Anna Jay looked good for somebody that's only been out there for a year. Really. Only had 7 matches when she first appeared on AEW Dynamite during the COVID pandemic shows. This was a great match. It was a good match. It was no Serena Deeb, Thunder Rosa, which is probably the bar. Maybe and here Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker match. That's probably the bar for the women's division. This was a good match, and I've noticed that I've been grading these a lot better. Anna Jay has definitely improved. A good arsenal. Hikaru Shida works well with some of the talent that's not on the Serena Deeb level, and Thunder Rosa. But this was a good match, and I was impressed with Anna Jay. I was like, okay, she's definitely come a long way. There were some couple awkward spots here and there. Hikaru Shida with the win. I gave this a 3. And that's usually high for me. I'm starting to be a little bit more nice when it comes to the women's matches. You can definitely see there's an improvement. Abaddon comes out, and I think that's setting us up for Hikaru Shida Abaddon. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing more Abaddon matches to see really her gimmick is spot on. There's really nobody that's got a better gimmick than Abaddon. I mean, it's fantastic. But can she wrestle? And that's what I want to see. Maybe we get a dark match this week with some Abaddon in there. Matt Hardy checks in, talking about how he invented everything. We're starting to see this new character. Not really sure where he's going with this one. I am intrigued. And this kind of arrogant Matt Hardy thing, we'll see if this fizzles out. I'm still not sure about it. Team Taz checks in. They're all fired up. They're going to be taking on Ricky Starks, and Will Hobbs will be taking on Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin next week. So this time Taz was so upset he left, and they let Ricky Starks cut the promo. It was taped, but it was good to see Ricky Starks because he's kind of known as a promo guy. And let's let him grab the mic and do his thing. And Ricky Starks is in my top 10 favorite wrestlers in AEW, that's for sure. Then we finally finish with Pac versus Ray Phoenix. Pac and Ray Phoenix versus the Butcher and the Blade. Good match throughout. Winner, the Butcher and the Blade. I figured this was going on. Give this a 3.75. Good match. You know, a lot of these matches were just kind of like typical AEW good matches. Nothing terrible. Nothing that stood out. Again, I'm a super fan of Ray Phoenix. Then at the end of the match, Lance Archer comes out. And the only reason why I think Lance Archer came out to help Pac and Ray Phoenix is potentially Pac goes back to Europe and then takes a while to get back. So maybe they're setting up a Lance Archer, Eddie Kingston feud, which is kind of weird. And then I was thinking, well, what's going to go on with Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade? They need to add some more firepower to their group. What's Lance Archer's mix in these three? You got Death Triangle, you got Eddie Kingston's group, and then Lance Archer is somewhere in the middle. And maybe they try to align Lance Archer. Just another conspiracy theory out there. You know I love them. What if they're trying to, because I feel like Lance Archer doesn't need Jake Roberts anymore. He can barely talk at this point, all those cigarettes he's smoking. And the last time they gave him the mic a couple times, it was kind of awkward. Maybe they're trying to align Lance Archer with Eddie Kingston, since Eddie Kingston's got that mic skills, and then you get that monster in that group. I mean, he's not going to join Death Triangle. Do you think he would join Death Triangle too? That would be weird. We'll find out. We'll have to tune in next week. But overall, again, always fun watching AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. Card announced for next week's AEW Dynamite special Winter is Coming. This will be on the December 2nd episode. First, we get Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. This is a big match. Totally excited about that. Then we get the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal, which I thought was a great idea. Always love these kind of matches. So who's in this match? So MJF will have to defend his diamond ring that he's been carrying for over a year. Wrestlers announced. I don't think he'll keep it. Wrestlers announced for the match: MJF, Wardlow, Hangman, Adam Page, Sammy Guevara, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Matt Hardy, Matt Sydal, Scorpio Sky, Sean Spears. That's good. Orange Cassidy, Kip Sabian, and Miro. Good to see get all these guys in there. Always a battle royal match is a lot of fun. We'll see how this one goes down and who comes away with the diamond. I think MJF keeps the diamond. I don't know who else. Who else would you give it to? John Silver? That would be a dark horse. Or maybe Matt Hardy? No. Or maybe Miro? I'm not really sure. Or Hangman? Or really, actually, what you would maybe kind of set up to make it kind of really interesting is what if Sammy Guevara beats MJF to get the ring? That would be a nice little setup feud for those guys. Singles match, we get Dr. Britt Baker versus Leia Hirsch. I always had my conspiracy hat that Dr. Britt Baker was still injured, and that's why we weren't really seeing her in many matches in the ring. We'll see how she squares up against Leila Hirsch. But Leila Hirsch is somebody who's been looking good too in the ring and potentially signed. I've always had that, and I think I talked about on this show, is like set her up with Marco Stunt, have her part of the Jurassic Express. I think that would be kind of something cool with her character and her beat up people that mess with Marco Stunt or something. I don't know. Then finally we get the tag match, Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes versus Powerhouse Hobbs. I guess that's what he's going by now. And Ricky Starks. I'm super excited about Ricky Starks and Darby Allin. I'm curious how this one will go out, but should be a good match just with Ricky Starks and Darby Allin alone. And then finally, Chris Jericho versus Frankie Kazarian. Close out that feud, that kind of short feud. Give Chris Jericho a couple wins. I think that's where they're going with that. So it should be a fantastic December 2nd show. Who do you think is going to win, Moxley or Omega? Results from a jam-packed AEW Dark. This is the November 24th edition of it. Opens up with Taz, Excalibur, and Olympic bronze medalist Anthony Ogogo. Not really sure why he's being used, but he's part of the Nightmare Factory. First up, Big Swole defeated Viperous in a women's match. Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Silver defeated Aaron Solo and Lee Johnson. Is Aaron Solo going to join the Nightmare family, perhaps? We have a segment from Leva Bates talking about her break away from Peter Avalon. Trent defeated Michael Nakazawa in a singles match. Revenge, if you didn't watch BTE, for when Trent fell off the against his match with Miro when he slid on the ropes, and then they pulled it into an angle with Nakazawa sabotaging the ropes with his oil thing that he does. Red Velvet defeated Tesha Prince. Sean Spears, we hear from him in a segment and talking about Scorpio Sky. Then Lance Archer in another segment coming up. I wonder what they're planning on doing with Archer. I'm surprised he hasn't had a match yet, though. Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn defeated Baron Black and VSK. Kaylin King defeated Rache Chanel. Kaylin King, I think this is one of her first victories, and she's been kind of a quote-unquote jobber for a little while, and now she gets the victories. Interesting. Sammy Guevara defeated Marco Stunt. This is one of the matches I was most excited about. Sammy had a little post-match talk after that. Penelope Ford defeated Dream Girl Ellie. Diamante and Ivelisse defeated Jenna and Lady Frost. I think it's the Bionic Beast Jenna. Genocide was last week. Now it's the Bionic Beast Jenna. Brandon Cutler gets another win versus Adam Priest. We get our segment from the waiting room with Tay Conte and Britt Baker. The Gun Club, Billy Austin and Colton defeated Cesar Bonani, KTB, and Seth Margus. Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defeated Panda Express, Ultimo Panda, and Super Panda. Angelico and Jack Evans, TH2, defeated Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. The Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens and Matt Caster defeated Alex Chamberlain and Damian Ferrier. Matt Sydal defeated Alan Angels in a single match. Peter Avalon got the win over Fuego del Sol. So Peter Avalon is now off the schneid in the losing streak. Then finally we get Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, the Dark Order, defeating Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. And the Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico. And that wraps up AEW Dark. Stars from New Japan Wrestling and AEW have been going head-to-head for years now. And we have seen some AEW stars go to New Japan and have some matches with some of their top stars on major pay-per-view events. These huge matchups have come to an abrupt stop, clearly, for the time being due to the pandemic and its travel restrictions, which has affected the whole world of sports, including pro wrestling, which is a shame. It is extremely difficult to plan as well as book any of these matches right now because of what's going on. One of these potential blockbuster matches that could happen once everything kind of gets back to normal post-pandemic world is an IWGP United States title match between current IWGP United States champion and current AEW World Champion Jon Moxley against top New Japan star Kenta. We remember him from his days and very brief days and injury-riddled days in NXT. Kenta took to Twitter and called out AEW World Champion Jon Moxley and said, "Where is Jon Moxley?" Kenta would also say that if Jon Moxley won't show up, then they should just give him the IWGP United States title. Now, as we all know, Moxley can't travel to Japan as of yet due to the travel restrictions, and Kenta won the right to challenge Moxley for his IWGP United States title after winning a tournament on New Japan US Strong a number of months ago. Now, only time will tell if this matchup can happen and will it take place, and there are some things to consider before it truly happens. One of my conspiracy theories is that Jon Moxley loses to Kenny Omega for the AEW title, and then Moxley heads to Japan to take on Kenta and could spend, a month or so over there with, travel restrictions and quarantining before coming back to the U.S. That's one of my thought process that could happen. This is one of my predictions sure to go wrong. All Elite Wrestling became this global phenomenon, but actually they were talking about maybe doing some shows in Canada this year. AEW President and CEO Tony Khan was recently interviewed by Dan and Jay of TSN, where he talked about initial plans of bringing AEW to Canada this year for Dynamite. Those plans, of course, were derailed because of the pandemic, but Khan noted that there was a plan to come to Toronto this past summer, and he can't wait to come to Canada. He's really excited to bring about the show to Canada. So there was talk of being in not only the UK this summer, but Canada as well, hopefully in 2021. Would love to see AEW travel the globe. Brian Williams revealed some details about the future of AEW games. We all know about who's in charge and AEW Hideki Iwashiwa, whatever his name is, Def Jam Vendetta, and of course WWF No Mercy, which is a classic video game. A couple interesting notes from this interview was one that of Kenny Omega's influence of bringing Geta in. Kenny is, of course, the AEW executive who is a fair amount of time in New Japan Pro Wrestling and is a fan of video games. Williams mentioned in the interview that Ukes has more creative freedom on this game compared to when they worked for 2K or THQ. He says that Iwashiwa's role in the production of the AEW game It was not revealed just yet, but it was still apparent that his recruitment had something to do with Kenny Omega's influence. So that's kind of important. Final piece of information from the interview is the game engine is being built from scratch, which I think this is kind of pretty cool. I'm excited to see what they have plans for that. That means that development is going to take quite a long time to finish. That's the problem. You're not just going to throw a skin over a current built engine. You're going to have to do a lot of coding. I know all about coding with my AEW fantasy wrestling app that we're working on. Creating a new engine is a bit of a hassle and a lot of bugs, and so you're just going to be patient. Fans cannot expect the game to be out until spring or summer of 2022. That's right, spring or summer of 2022. So you got a long ways to wait till that first AEW video game comes out. Actually, when the XFL kicks off its season in 2022 is about the time when AEW will launch its new video game, friends. I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait. Not until next Christmas, but even after that. Sorry, friends. We got our buddy over there, Jeffrey Padower from Jazzware's Wicked Cool Games this past week, did a reveal with Sammy Guevara about his unrivaled action figure. And actually, you could see it's kind of cool. It's an early prototype image. It features his signature leather jacket and his tongue sticking out. Why do wrestlers all stick out their tongues all the time? It's like a thing. They all do it. The jacket will likely be soft goods, but nothing has been confirmed. Guevara is first to be revealed of the Series 4, which should be available for pre-order soon over at Ringside Collectibles. I am on the hunt for my Ray FENIX, Kenny Omega, Kenta figures, and just any figures at Walmart at this point. I have told Santa that I want AEW Unrivaled figures for Christmas. We'll see if Santa comes through. So Wrestling Observer gave us some insight onto some of the AEW schedule coming forward. Of course, we got Winter is Coming, which is looking to be a potential sold-out event. And also, I mean, it's not selling out. You can't sell out the whole building because of what's going on. But it's a highly anticipated matchup between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega that will be live coming up next week. The December 9th episode of AEW Dynamite is also scheduled to be a tape show, where the tapings will take place on December 3rd. So they'll tape next week's show the day after Winter is Coming. The December 16th episode of Dynamite is scheduled to air live, and then the 23rd episode of Dynamite will be taped, so that will be filmed at the next day. So you're going to get a live, taped, and then they also mentioned that the December 30th and January 6th episodes of Dynamite will both air live. So we'll do live, taped, and then 2 back-to-back live episodes. We'll see where that leads us, because that will lead us into February and AEW Revolution. Congratulations to Top Flight. They were officially signed. Darius and Dante Martin. We all know the very young guys. They are both, Darius is 21 years old and is wrestled under the name Airwolf. Dante is 19 years old and has used the name Angel Dorado. So congratulations to Darius and Dante, as they are now all elite. Congrats goes to Sonny Kiss. He graduates from college. Sonny Kiss revealed that he was studying fitness training, fitness science, and kinesiology, and he got a lot of congratulations out there. So congratulations to Sonny Kiss, who graduated from college. That is a great thing for him to do while all still being a professional wrestler, because you need to know what you can do after that. So congrats to Sonny Kiss, the recent college graduate, we should say, Sonny Kiss. Did you know you can get all the latest AEW news right from your phone? That's right, we're excited to announce the Pro Wrestling News Hub app. That's right, and it's free. You can get it for your iPhone. You can get it for your Google Android phone. And they're both free. You get all our breaking AEW news, information from Pro Wrestling News Hub right from your phone. You can just visit the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. What do you get? You get the latest news from Pro Wrestling News Hub. You get push notifications when a new post or story comes out. You get our podcast on the phone. You can leave us a review on iTunes, links to our social media, and so much more. All you have to do is, if you have an iPhone, go to the iTunes store and just look up Pro Wrestling News Hub and download it. Just type in AEW News. You can get our phone app, and guess it is free, my friends. It's free. So head over. You get all the latest news right from your phone, from your friends from Pro Wrestling News Hub, whether you have an iPhone or an Android. And it's best of all, it's free. All right, let's take a look at some of our lovely social media stuff. First, Ray Watts talking about my AEW's ratings a week or so ago. He says, I agree with you on Fox News. I do really hate them. AEW killed it on Wednesday. I think Moxley is going to Japan. I think AEW just wants to keep it a secret or something. I agree with you. Fox News sucks. Pimp Jesus says they are going to Newsmax and OANN on YouTube. Again, talking about my comments about where those people are going to. And I agree, yes, they are going to Newsmax. And even though OANN, I don't even know if I could say them without getting banned, but they got some stuff of theirs that was banned. The Charm City Playa, Brandon Ace says, let's be perfectly honest, WWE didn't need Jade Cargill because the women's division is always freaking stacked. It's one of the best in pro wrestling today. No question about that. It's just interesting that with her look and everything that they just kind of took a pass on her. They usually try to just take basically anybody. I mean, that they try to sign to keep away from AEW. So a little surprised about Jade not getting picked up by WWE. But you're right. I mean, they have tons of talent. Roy Harper, could Zelina Vega be on her way to AEW? He says, yes, please. MJ4 Life 2009 says, who is in the thumbnail talking about that is Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes, and Pac is in our thumbnail about last week's news. And of course, about Kenta and John Moxley. Ray Watt says, I think Kenta is the one who attacked John. I think John is going to Japan as well. Ooh, would that be an interesting twist? No doubt about that. That's a great little point there I didn't think of. Oh, and that could be the big game changer that Tony Khan is talking about. Inner Circle segment, including an interview with Dragon. So one of our writers was able to get an interview with the Dragon guy that was on the Inner Circle segment. So if you want to check that out, it's actually pretty good. Gray says this segment was full of entertainment. Really enjoyed it. I literally cried out of laughing when MJF and Jericho said the same time, son of biatch. That was a good segment. Yeah, so check out the article from Pro Wrestling News Hub from our own Joe Turner. Got an exclusive with the Dragon from that interview, which was actually pretty interesting to check it out. Could AEW swoop in and entice Aleister Black? Gray says Black versus Hangman. What do you say, Mr. Perry? Would love to see that. Aleister Black is one of the few guys that I would love to see in AEW. I mean, there's plenty of guys that you could get rid of, Luther, and bring in Aleister Black. No problem with that. Gray talking about Top Flight getting signed. They perform better than Private Party. I would say that that's kind of accurate there. Yeah. On the Twitter about the story about this Louis Benson guy accused Cody of bullying him, I kind of really didn't. There's conflicting stories going on with that point. AEW fan page 01 says, was he employed by AEW or by another company or like a third-party contractor? I believe it was a third-party contractor. So he wasn't exactly employed to the company, but then I don't know what's going on that, so that's why we didn't kind of touch that. AEW fan page also talks about Zelina Vega, says AEW doesn't have to sign every person released from WWE. I agree with that. Although the women's division can certainly use Zelina, but they have a talent budget too. Plus, their roster is already loaded, so difficult to give everyone the time they /want/need. I agree. I've always been worried about signing too many guys out there, that they're roster gets a little overloaded. I wonder if we could get an announcement in December about a second show to really showcase some of these other talents to get them out there. About Aleister Black, AEW fan Page 01 says it would depend on when his contract expires with WWE. If Zelina Vega signs up elsewhere except for WWE, if there's room on AEW's roster to bring someone like Black in, I would bring him in, lock it in, done. Nathan _Lamorte about our 5 WWE wrestlers who would thrive in AEW. He says WWE wrestlers would thrive in WWE if WWE wasn't run by a grasping man-child who treated the lives of others like his own personal chew toys. Dang. That is, I'm not going to argue with that one. And on Brody Lee can finally fulfill his potential in AEW. AEW fan Page 01 says, I think he should remain in the TNT title picture for the time being. I agree. Or maybe feud with some prominent non-WWE guys in AEW, because there has to be now non-WWE guy who becomes the world champion. I agree with that as well. Checking out our emailers. We got an email from our man Salty Sea Dog checking in to answer your question. I would say that they could use an experienced women wrestlers, including Zelina Vega. She is good on the mic. Totally agree with there. The wrestler I was not happy to see go to Impact was Donna Purrazzo. She was awesome. AEW missed out when she was released by WWE. I've heard that name a lot. Saying that I do like where the women's division is heading. They do seem like they are having more women's your storyline now, and more Abaddon is always good. Yes, I'm glad to see Abaddon in the mix as well. I think she got injured a little bit, but now she's back. But she hasn't really wrestled much. So I assume she'll be wrestling on Dark this week. And then I'm fine with Abaddon. Let's push somebody else new. And we've been really intrigued by her. So going into December with her would be good. Says Dark was definitely too long this week. I did enjoy some of the storytelling, including the Lance Archer, which played into the end of Dynamite. Yes, and I've talked about this before on the show. Dark, Dynamite, and whatever this new show is, and even Being the Elite, and even Sammy Guevara's stuff on YouTube, like let all that mesh into like one big ball of storytelling. I think it would be good. Next week's Dynamite is stacked. Yes, super looking forward to that. The only thing that I'm worried about is that they do not give the main event enough time. Kenny and Moxley should have a good 45 minutes with the intros and the ending to really make it a legitimate title main event feel. No matter what, that match will be good, and that's what counts. That is an interesting point. Yeah. I mean, you need to start that match at 9:30 and not at like 9:45. I agree with you there. That needs to be a pay-per-view level 45 minutes. I'm with you there. I think that. But the problem is we all know how it's going to end, that it's coming to an end when you're looking at the clock and it's 9:55. That's the problem. I would also want to say that I agree with the theory that Adam Page jumped Moxley. The Adam Page angle is great. Page would be another one. Helps Omega get the win over Moxley. That's a storyline that they could use. And a disappointing angle is naming people like Shaq and not using him just like Tyson. If they do not have celebrities confirmed, they should not use them. Salty Sea Dog checking in. I agree. You're right. They should. But again, we're dealing in the pandemic era, so it's hard to like plan things. And we see how crazy things are going right now, and things are getting worse. So it's hard to plan these kind of things. But yeah, I mean, you could sit on it for a couple months. No need to bring it out now, but maybe they want to get Jade involved. And maybe, Shaq is not coming. They don't plan on using him until the summertime anyway, in a slow build, which AEW has been known to do with some of their storytelling, which is good, and we like it. Speaking of people we like, Mr. Fourth Row.
From the It's a go. It's a go for another phone call there from Mr. Fourth Row. Hey, AEW Week in Review and Mr. Mark. Let's get right into it quickly here and talk about the question that was posed to us about Selena Vega. Is she AEW, or in this case, Thea Trinidad? I think she is. I think she's a great talent. I think AEW would benefit for having her experience and talent to just boost that women's roster. So hopefully later than sooner, just because of that darn pesky no compete clause contract, we'll see her real soon, and that would be great. Hey, well, speaking of women, let's talk about the living dead girl, Abaddon. As of last night, she got to get back there on AEW Dynamite and go face-to-face there with Shida. So I'm glad to see that. Last time we got to see these two go face-to-face was AEW Dark back in March when they were here in Denver. And that was kind of what lit up the imagination of AEW with the Abaddon character. So I'm glad to see that she's gone back up there, marked that belt, and just gave a little hi, how you doing, Dashida? I'm coming for the gold. Abaddon is experienced of holding gold, and I had a little bit, let's just say I had a little bit inside track. Something was happening because, of course, I do know her professionally and personally. And let me also tell you this too. Even in the personal part, she does keep things a little bit cryptic to kind of keep us guessing all of her in the little part of her inner circle. Let me just say. Anyways, I want to finish this off by wishing you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. Canadians, if you guys are listening to this, of course you guys had yours a little bit earlier, but I want you all to stay safe and all that stuff like that. And just think about, even though this Thanksgiving is not going to be ones that we are used to, I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to hope that you guys all have faith that brighter times are coming, and we will get back into the world, and in this particular case, back into the ring, and all things will be much brighter here in the future. We just got to have that faith, if can borrow a line from George Michael. Anyways, that is my view, not from the cheap seats, not from the most expensive seats, but from the fourth row.
Thanks for Mr. Fourth Row checking in. He did point out to me on Twitter, he says, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and he said, I keep saying Ryzen is pronounced Rysin. Rysin. I think I was like Ryzine or something like that, like Visine or something. He says it's Rysin. He came from this area, so we know him well. Speaking of what Mr. Fourth Row is saying about coming from his area as Abaddon, I'm excited about Abaddon and the ring. I want to see her more. And I was like, why aren't they using her enough? And maybe this was the plan, was, hey, we're going to do some other things with the women's division, but then we'll bring in Abaddon later. She got a little injured with Tay Conte, and then now she's back, and now they're ready to use her. And I'm excited about seeing what Abaddon has to do in AEW against Shida. No question about that. And I agree. Everybody stay safe. I really have a feeling, I mean, if I was a betting man, I mean, like, yeah, Chris Jericho's cruise is in October of 2021. If I'm a betting man, and I'm a news guy, we all know about XFL News Hub, Pro Wrestling News Hub, Destiny News Hub. Like, I've always been a news guy. I've owned wrestling news sites and wrestling sites for years and years and years. So I follow the news, and I try to, like, predict what's going on. I really think between some vaccines that I think we can start to get to normal this summer, and we get back, as Mr. Fourth Row says, back in the ring, which I totally want to do too. So we'd like to thank Salty Sea Dog and Mr. Fourth Row for checking in, and everybody else on the social medias. We appreciate that. If you want to be part of the show, remember, email podcast@prowrestlingnewshub.com or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Remember, cutoff time is 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. Follow us on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all Pro Wrestling News Hub, especially YouTube, Pro Wrestling News Hub. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're really trying to build that one up. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show, and we can find our show everywhere. Tune in, iHeartRadio, Spotify, everywhere. ProWrestlingNewsHub.com/AEW-podcast for our show notes, and join us on the Discord. I will tell you this, we're about 70% going on with our pro wrestling phone AEW fantasy app. We're about 70% there. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm definitely pointing towards a January-ish time frame for alpha, beta testing where we'll get some of you guys in there and do it. I'm looking forward to, I'm setting it up so that when you join, here's an example of something fun that we're going to do with the fantasy app. I'll just throw this little teaser out there, especially if you listen to the show all the way to the end. My idea is that, when you play fantasy, and this happened when we did Fantasy XFL, and I've done other fantasy things before, is when people just quit and they stop playing, and it happens all the time. The problem is, if you're in a league and there's 6 guys that are loyal, and then 1 or 2 guys decide not to play anymore, then it screws up, which makes maybe you not want to play anymore. We're going to build in the system that it will automatically continually put in the best lineup, even if you're not even if they disappear. So it's something where it's like, hey, they didn't log in this week at all to update their lineup, and we know that Brody Lee is out for a couple weeks or something like that, and we would know, or somebody got injured for real or something like that. Like, say if they had Chris Statlander on their roster and they were starting Chris Statlander, we would know that she's out for a while, so we put her on their bench and then put in somebody else. So the system would keep it going, and that's what I'm trying to work on now, is that I have created a league, I did a draft, and now I want to play that league out, but let the computer play the other 7 teams and me just play mine as we go through this kind of beta test phase. So that's kind of where we are with that. So it's pretty cool. So if you want to know more about what's going on with our fantasy app, join us on the Discord and hang out with us there. So thanks for listening. God bless. Remember, the ratings, we'll have those out during the week. Enjoy. Winter is coming. Super excited about that. We'll see if our predictions are real. We'll get your reaction to winter's coming. We'd love to have that for next week's show as well, plus our top 5 list that we just talked about this week. So thanks for listening. God bless. Mahalo. Stay safe out there. Put that mask on, and definitely be safe. God bless, and I will see you all later.